VocalEye Almost Live Zoom. Blind Spot, Moments Unseen. Hosted by Amy Amantea, with special guests Ruth Bieber and Terry Kelly.
So an official welcome to you all. This is a VocalEye Almost Live event, and my name is Amy Amantea. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator for VocalEye. I'm your host for these Almost Live events, and I'm a member of the blind community, and I feel proud and privileged to be able to say that. So thank you for that. Before we move on with tonight's production, I don't know what to call these things in our Zoom spaces, our performance, our production, our presentation. Your pick. I want to just welcome Deanna into the space, who's our intern from Adler University and is joining VocalEye to do many different things. And Deanna's going to offer our land acknowledgement as she does every Wednesday. So Deanna, the space is yours, my friend.
Thank you, Amy. Hi, everybody. My name is Deanna Jestrin, and I am an intern at VocalEye. My family comes from the Statliam Nation, which is near Lillooet, BC, on my mother's side, and mostly British descent on my father's side. VocalEye is presenting to you today from the ancestral, unceded, traditional territories of the Musqueam, the Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish First Nations. It's important that we acknowledge and honor these nations to show our appreciation and respect for them as individuals, as community, and also the original caretakers of this land. And I like to, when I'm giving these land acknowledgements, offer some things to think about, maybe a personal account, maybe something that connects us all as people. Today, I'd like to offer some information about the three nations that we are occupying in the VocalEye space: the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish First Nations. And this information comes to us from the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish Development Corporation website. So if you would like more information about these three nations and how they work together, you can go and check that out. These nations are all family, and this partnership reflects their long tradition of working together to benefit their people. So a little bit about the Musqueam Indian Band. The Musqueam people are descendants of the Coast Salish people, and their traditional territory occupies what is now Vancouver and the surrounding areas. And their people have moved throughout their traditional territory using the resources from the land. And the land has always provided for them, provided fishing, hunting, trapping, and gathering opportunities. And this is how they maintain their livelihood. Today, the Musqueam people still use all of these resources for economical and traditional purposes. About the Squamish First Nation. The Squamish Nation is comprised of descendants of the Coast Salish Aboriginal people who lived in the present-day Squamish Valley, which is between Vancouver and Whistler, BC, and Greater Vancouver area. Their historical links to these lands and waters are numerous, and Squamish place names exist throughout their entire territory. In many cases, a location has a particular meaning to the people because of the existence of the oral traditions that serve to explain that particular place in the Squamish universe. And this is all in relationship to the land. About the Tsleil-Waututh Nation, the Tsleil-Waututh Nations are called the people of the inlet, and they are one of many groups of Coast Salish people who populate the Pacific Northwest coast. They have a sacred trust and responsibility to care for their traditional territory and to restore it to its former state. This stewardship of the land and air and water is so deeply ingrained in their culture because they understand that the health of the people is interconnected with the environment they inhabit. And this is really a principle that envelops all of Indigenous culture, that the individual, the self, is connected to the family, is connected to the community, connected to the nation, and all living things, and beyond that, all spiritual things. So everything in our world is connected. And that's why we say when we leave or when we greet all my relations in this particular area, we say that. So I'm lifting my hands, bent 90 degrees at the elbow with my flat palms facing me, my face at eye level. And I say all my relations to acknowledge that we are all related. Thank you, everybody, for being here today and tonight, and I hope you enjoy the show.
Thank you, Deanna. I say this every week, I think, but I always value and learn so much from what you share with your land acknowledgements. So I'm going to check out that that website that you mentioned, and maybe we can circulate a link afterwards as well.
Great, thank you.
So, yeah, thank you for sharing that.
That was beautiful. That's beautiful.
Thanks, Terry.
Yeah.
So again, a big welcome, folks. Today is November the 24th, 2021, and tonight we're proud to offer you our Almost Live event number 64. I feel like I'm playing bingo. Number 64.
Bingo.
Yeah. Tonight we're going to watch Blind Spot, which is a documentary adventure, of course, featuring our own Ruth Bieber, who's joining us, and Terry Kelly, who's joining us, and Carly Gregg, who is not in the space, I don't think, with us this evening, but is also part of this documentary. So I want to introduce Ruth and Terry to the space. And I think most of you maybe know one or both of these folks, but welcome Ruth and welcome Terry.
Thank you.
Hello.
Really nice to have you both in the space. Ruth, if you were curious, your camera is not on. I'm just letting you know because I know that you had planned to have your camera on. So, there we go. Now I see some light coming from your square. So welcome to the space, friends. I want to just start off by asking. So first, Ruth, you brought this documentary. You pitched it to VocalEye to share with the community. And we love that you did that. This is one of the things that we love to do, is to share things that artists in our space are doing. Talk to me a bit about, like, when was this? Because certainly this didn't happen over the pandemic. So when did you go on this adventure, and where was this adventure?
Oh, wow. I'm not great with dates, but I'm going to say 2015.
Okay.
And it was, I remember something about April Fools to, so April 1st to International Women's Day. So what would that be? March 28th to April 1st or something like that. And yeah, it takes place in Patagonia, Argentina, the rugged Patagonia. And it was a fantastic experience, I have to say. What else would you like to know?
Oh, I think that that's fantastic. And I guess I'd love to know from the two of you how, so we can start with Terry on this one, but how did you get involved in this documentary?
Well, that was kind of exciting from my perspective. And I should mention too that year that we did this ride, it also was it January or February was it was the year of the horse that year. So it's very, very appropriate. So someone sent me this thing just out of the blue. Someone I hadn't spoken to in about 5 or 10 years. He said, "Here's a little thing you can apply for, Jerry. Thought you might be interested in it." So you had to fill out a whole bunch of answers and questions, I'd ask questions about it, fill out little documents and so on, and I fired it back in. And when they told me what it was all about, I got really excited, and I figured, man, there are going to be a couple of hundred people applying for this.
Yeah.
And so I just threw it in and thought, whatever. And then lo and behold, I get the call. I say, wow. And so we, Ruth, Carly, and I were all chosen from a group of people who applied to go and do this. And we had never met one another before. So we all took off on this trip. In fact, I didn't know anyone on I think, did you and Carly know each other, Ruth, in advance?
No, not at all. No.
So we didn't know one another. Like, it was totally strangers, 100% all the way. So we all left home. We met on an airplane in Toronto, flew to Argentina, and it was just new, everything brand new. So it was a great experience to do that and learn to get to know new people, make new friendships, and all of that. So yeah, it's pretty exciting.
And Ruth, is your adventure similar to that?
So a little bit. I got an email from Leslie Holler. Would have been great if she'd be on the call tonight, but and it was one of those emails that looked a little bit suspicious, and I almost just deleted it. And then I thought, oh, what the heck. So it was in the evening, I read the email, and I just got so excited. And you have to understand, I've virtually never been on a horse before, but it just felt like it was something so exciting, such a great opportunity. And I thought, you know what, I better sleep on this. And so I did. And next morning, right away, I just said, I would really love to do this. But I've never been on a horse. You know, what else? And so in the end, after a few discussions with Leslie Haller and Stefan Morel, I finally said, so if I learn to play Don't Fence Me In on the ukulele and sing it on the trail, will you pick me? And they said, sure. So kind of like that.
Awesome. I'm sure Terry would have had no problem teaching you how to play that. Your musical background, Terry.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, but hey.
I had to learn it
logical.
before I went.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Terry was in Nova Scotia. I was in BC. No. Did it
Okay,
on my own.
I'm lodging a complaint. So it sounds like Ruth was chosen. I had to go through these hoops and jump through it.
You had to apply, yeah.
Always. Anyway, so there you go. So you're a queen or a princess there, Ruth, obviously.
And Terry, was this your first time on horseback too?
Well, I'd been on a pony before. You know, I think someone had on a rope or something. You know, so, but no, not really. And here's the funny thing. So I said, oh yeah, we'll go down there and go, you know, sunny days, walking through the grassy Patagonia. Well, gee, we got down there, we had 65-degree inclines and declines and like rocks as big as car seats and bigger that the horses had to go over. It was absolutely not even close to what I had imagined. And I think I've done a lot of different things in my life, but it was probably the scariest thing I've ever done, but also the most exciting and challenging. So, you know, I have a little mantra that like one of my rules in my life is always step out of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. Well, I got a mouthful that time.
Good to do that. I remember I took one of the donkeys down Santorini Island off the coast of part of Greece. Right. And it was the most terrifying thing because on one side there's mountain and the other side it's cliff edge down to the water. And the donkeys have no respect for like single file, or they're just all trying to rush down at the same time. So they're pushing and shoving each other. And I don't know that I would have the wherewithal to get back on something that had a saddle or, you know, 4 legs and trotted on your trails.
Well, you know, we had big drop-offs, you know, lots of times with just a really narrow trail. And some people would say, well, you can't see, so it probably didn't bother you. Well, you can feel it.
You can feel it.
Feel that expanse out there. Absolutely. So, you know.
And when your guide says to you, if we say bail to the right, we mean bail to the right because the horse is falling off the edge on the left.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So we're in for a real adventure in this documentary, I think is what you're telling us.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There was some, you know, unfortunately, I guess for part of the story, some of the stuff that happened that was kind of, hey, he could have died there. Speaking of myself, they didn't capture a couple of those things on camera. Right. So you know, at some point I could tell the story and you might think it's the biggest fish story, but there were a couple of hairy experiences that, did you have any of those, Ruth?
Oh, I think they documented my tachycardia. So,
no spoilers.
I almost had to catch the helicopter back to civilization.
Well, I think when we come back after we watch the documentary together, we'll talk a bit about some of these things that maybe weren't captured that you experienced, because I think it's part of the adventure and it's part of understanding sort of what y'all got yourselves into, literally, with this experience. But I'm with you, Terry, in the fact that I kind of want to push the boundaries of my own comfort zone because you only live once, and I kind of want to live it. So
I mean, when you're doing it, it's like, am I losing my mind?
Yeah.
But of course, once you're into it, then it's pretty cool. And once it's over, you're thinking, you know, my wife and I did the Camino de Santiago.
Yes.
It was, you know, 800 kilometers, backpacks, you know, just day after day. and that was quite an experience as well. There's some pretty tough stuff in there. It wasn't quite as scary. I had a couple of, narrow trails and things like that, but it was a physical,
long
mental,
walk.
spiritual experience all around. So it was quite personally, a lot of personal growth, which is a whole other thing. And there's some of that in this as well,
Awesome. Well, we're going to have lots to talk about, friends, after we watch the documentary Blind Spot. So as we're just rolling into 7:01, I'm going to invite folks to sit back, relax, listen, watch, engage with this documentary. It's approximately 50 minutes long, and then we'll come back and we'll talk with Terry Kelly and Ruth Bieber about their experience, and you'll have an opportunity to chime in with your questions and comments. So friends, Rick, when you're ready, go ahead and play Blind Spot.
And I'll be delivering popcorn and chocolate bars.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Stay tuned. The drone is on its way. Here we go, friends.
Due to copyright restrictions, this feature presentation has not been recorded. Please check below for more information, including links to the material if it is hosted elsewhere.
All right, welcome back, friends. That was the documentary Blind Spot, featuring our own Terry Kelly and Ruth Bieber and Carly Brigg, who I'm not sure is in the room, but I'm going to welcome Terry and Ruth back into the space. And I would love to hear from friends in the audience if they have questions or comments that they'd like to make about Blind Spot. That would be lovely. And I'm just waiting for Ruth and Terry to pop on back into the space and unmute and turn on their cameras so we know they're with us. Because I certainly have a couple of really interesting questions, and we already have a hand from Megan. But Megan, let's just give our guests an opportunity to jump in. And there may be some technical difficulties, so let's just give them some space for that. Oh, I see the hands lining up. So I acknowledge that we've got Megan. I acknowledge we've got Betty. I acknowledge that we have Christy. Oh, and now we have Tilo and Yuko. So, you know what? I'm just gonna maybe transition right on in, friends, because we got a lot of hands. So let's just start with Megan, and you can unmute yourself and ask your question or share your comments with Terry and Ruth, who had cameras on and now have cameras off again.
Oh, camera off. Hang on.
We've been told we're not allowed. That's the message I'm getting every time.
Okay. Well, we'll make sure on the back end here that we can allow you to turn your cameras on.
No worries.
This sometimes happens when we force the cameras off and the audio off at the beginning.
Yeah.
So we'll make sure that we work on that. But in the meantime, Megan, why don't you go ahead and ask your question while we work on that? Megan, we can't hear you. Okay, we're gonna give Megan a moment to maybe.
There we go.
There we go. There we go. All right, here we go.
Anyway, I really like. How did you who actually? Hey Ruth, how did you like when you flew to the like was there actually a program for blind people to actually go horseback riding in the Andes?
Oh, that is such a great question, Megan, because the answer is no.
Oh.
There was no program. And of course, that was a very interesting point for all of us who were blind and for people who weren't blind, because there was no program. But the idea of the film was to show that anybody could ride the trail in Patagonia out of the Estancia Ranquilco ranch experience. Yeah,
I've never been there.
Oh, you should go. Oh my gosh, you'd love it.
Do you go from town to town in a way, like on that trail, or? Oh,
it was all just mountainous and through rivers and that one really steep part, they call it the elevator, because it was so steep. So it was all very, very natural. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Oh, so there was no towns you would stop at or anything like that?
No towns, no. And in fact, when I went into tachycardia with my heart, they would have had to bring in a helicopter to fly me out if I needed a hospital.
To medevac you out, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Awesome. I know that we also have Stefan in the space as well, and I wonder, I can give Stefan a moment if he wants to pop in, and maybe share with us where the idea came from to create this documentary. But while we're waiting to see if Stefan wants to join the conversation, because he's more than welcome, we'll go to Betty, who has a hand.
I just have a question. I noticed a couple of times on the documentary, they talked about wild horses.
Mm-hmm.
And I would imagine that your horses that you were riding would react, and you might not have a lot of time to deal with the reaction of your horses to the sudden appearance of the wild horses. And I just wondered, were they so used to riding the trail that they didn't pay any attention to those wild horses? Or, you know, did you always know when something, you know, how when you have a guide dog and they react to other dogs? I would imagine that horses would react to other horses like that.
Well, you know, I'll let Terry and Stefan, if he would like to join us, sort of comment as well. But I was never aware of our horses being intimidated by the wild horses. Just to say, I think they were probably well trained from that perspective. But I would like to say there was a fantastic photo op in the film where 6 wild horses came into the view of the film, and it was like it was choreographed, and we did nothing to make that happen. So there was some magic going on out there, is all I can say about the whole thing. So Stefan, did you want to comment, or Terry?
Well, first of all, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear
Gotcha.
you, Stefan.
What a absolute pleasure to be part of this experience. Thank you so much for the invitation, and what joy to be in the company of Terry and Ruth again for the first time in a few years.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a while.
While it's been a few years, it also kind of feels like it was just yesterday, and it was the first time
Sure.
I got to see that film and experience it for a while, and it's still very, very vivid. All of it, the sounds, the colors, and the emotions, and it's so moving, Ruth and Terry, to relive your experience and to hear how incredibly profound your insights were then, and they clearly seem to still resonate now. So what a gift to be able to share with everyone here. Thank you.
Stefan, where did the idea of this documentary come from?
I was traveling in Argentina on that very same trail in the Andes a year or two before we made the film, and I was quite overwhelmed by the vistas, by the people, by the presence, of the horses and the energy of the place. And I kept speaking to TA about how extraordinary it was, but I wanted to be able to bring the experience back home and share it with people in a way that was bigger and deeper than what someone might find in a National Geographic magazine. It was more than just a bunch of pretty pictures. It was a transformative experience, and it was through conversations with TA that we identified that the best person to describe what that place was like was someone who couldn't actually see it, but who could find the language of presence and connection with the land that Ruth, Terry, and Carly were able to express in ways that none of us who could see the place could. That's where the idea came from.
Terry, I sense that you want to chime in here.
And, you know, at the beginning, before you showed the film, Ruth and Terry were joking about how they, quote unquote, auditioned for this. There was no audition. They were a perfect fit from the very beginning. It wasn't just about finding someone who knew something about horses, because, you know, Ruth and Terry didn't have a whole lot of experience with horses. It was about finding somebody who was able to eloquently express as only they could what it could mean to travel to such an incredible place within and in the geography of Argentina. So hopefully the viewers and those of you who are in the room and the space tonight are connected to what Ruth and Terry experienced.
Thank you for that, Stefan. Appreciate those words.
I hope some of that made sense.
Yeah, it all makes sense. But I was sensing that Terry wanted to chime in. So Terry,
either I'm muted or you're muted. I'm not hearing Amy.
Oh, well, I am unmuted. Are folks hearing me?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you, Amy. Yep, and
Okay.
I hear Terry trying to
So
chime
Stefan,
in.
Yes.
It's on your end, Stefan.
Okay, it was. Thank you.
So am I coming through there?
You're
Yes,
coming through loud and clear, my
you're
friend.
good.
So one of the neat things about this is that never having, as Stefan just mentioned, I hadn't ridden before, Ruth hadn't, and the beauty of that, from my perspective, is that as I mentioned during the doc, I love having the opportunity to step out of my comfort zone into a place where I've never been, and so this was a kind of an experiment of sorts. Say what was going to happen. Throw a couple of blind people out there to see what unfolds. It was kind of neat, and so it was up to us to sort of and the people around us, and Stefan and all his team, and working together. But it was up to us to set the tone as to how far we're going to go with this, and how far we're going to step out and really go for learning what there was to learn. So it's like a baby dumped into the water. Okay, now swim, little thing.
Yeah. Baptism by fire, no doubt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it was great. Yeah.
That's awesome. We've got a list of hands, so I'm gonna motor through some of these. So Christy, why don't you go ahead and unmute yourself, ask your question, share your comment.
Zoom meeting, mute, currently unmuted, hold plus A button.
Have we got Christy?
Mute, currently unmuted, hold plus A button.
Hi, it's Christy.
We gotcha.
Alert, Richard Green has left the meeting.
Hi, it's Christy Bailey. I'm from Canada, Ontario. I was just wondering if how long it actually took you to make Blind Spot, and how many months you decided to come out and put it together.
That's yours, Stefan.
Okay. Well, I can tell you, Christy, that it took about a year of creative development and planning before we ever even reached out to Ruth and Terry and Carly. And then once we actually all found ourselves in Argentina, we were there for about 5 to 6 weeks. The journey through the mountains, as you can see during the film, is about 10 days from the moment we leave camp to the time we return. But there were a few weeks spent in camp just getting to know each other, figuring out our equipment, Ruth, Terry, and Carly getting riding lessons and becoming acquainted with a kind of system of communication with the guys so that they could figure out what degree of left and what degree of right they needed to turn when it was time to turn left and or right. And then a couple of weeks after, once we got back to camp to decompress and debrief, and also to film a couple of those interviews so that we could all relive it and capture those experiences for the film. So to answer your question, it took about a year to prepare, and then about 2 months to film, and then about 6 months to edit. So we were there in March of 2014, and the film premiered in 2015.
Awesome. Yeah, it takes a long time to put stuff together. Terry, I'd love to know from your perspective what it was like in the days of, so before you hit the trail, of learning this vocabulary that Stefan's talking about, learning how to work with the guides and navigate on a horse, and then as you all pointed out at the beginning, what it means to like ditch left hard or something like that. So what is it like to try and learn this new vocabulary in a short period of time?
It was challenging, but it was also interesting. And again, there are two things going on here. One, learning how to be on the horse, be with the horse, create a relationship with the horse, and then also work out the verbal stuff. And so some of the verbal communication actually developed throughout the experience. So you had some very rudimentary stuff we were given, as Ruth mentioned earlier, we were told about if someone says roll left, do it immediately so you don't go off some sort of a precipice or something. So there's some basic stuff that you had to know about. But Ruth, you can answer this one as well. But the communication developed over time. But we did set out some very basic ground rules at the beginning, so we had some sense of where to begin.
Well, and the thing I would add to that, Terry, beyond the verbal communication, which I agree, it sort of developed as we went along, there's the nonverbal communication that goes on, because horses are incredibly intuitive. And
Good
so
point.
you've got a horse that you're developing an intuitive relationship with. And in my experience, clearly my horse also was developing or had an intuitive relationship with my guide. And so there's a lot going on there that is not being talked about.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. The horses, you have to learn to trust the horse, because the horse can feel you don't trust. And the other piece is, it took me a little while to learn this, that you have to let the horse know that you are the boss.
This sounds like guide dog training, friends.
Yeah. Well, yeah. or kind of that kind of reminds me of my wife too.
Oh, Terry, I'm not touching that one with a 10-foot pole, my friend.
Next question.
Yeah, so there's trust, and so there's learning all kinds of things. As Ruth said, there are many things going on. So that was the joy of it and the excitement of it,
Yeah, the learning something new. Let's take a hand from Tilo, and maybe you goes with Tilo tonight. We'll see. Give Tilo a moment to unmute.
Hello. And
Hello,
no,
Tilo.
Yuko is not working. She's working at the dark table now.
Oh, that's too bad. Well,
yeah,
that's okay. You're with us. Have you got a question or comment?
She's training people. Yeah, I have a question. I'm just wondering, because I'm familiar with horses. I ride horses and that, and I'm comfortable with them. And yes, you do need to have a relationship with them. But I was wondering, because since now I've gone blind completely, when I've gone to the 7 Days Baptist Church blind camp, what they have before this COVID came on, they would lead us around either in the corral, which most people were fine, and I liked it when they went out on the trail, which was not so big. But I was wondering about, you said you guys got to you weren't led by somebody, so you were holding the reins with the horse. How were you guided? Was it like verbally, like was your guide behind you or beside you, or like you said, I heard in a movie sometimes you had to go single file? So how was that conveyed to you with your horse?
It's a great question, Tilo.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ruth.
So we that was a controversial point, wasn't it, Terry? Because for Terry and I especially, I mean, sometimes there was lots of wind or ambient sound. And so it was important for me that I could hear my guide. And if the guide is in front, sometimes you can't hear because the voice is projecting away from you. So we felt more confident when the guides were behind. But then there were times, like with the elevator, when it seemed as though it was so narrow and steep that the guide kind of couldn't be behind. They had to be in front. So then that's when we established that strategic plan of having someone in front and behind. You want to add anything to that, Terry or Stephanie?
Yeah, well, that's it. But the thing is that it was difficult, not difficult, but it took a bit of explaining to TA, who is the leader of the group, and to our guides, that they didn't quite get that having them behind us was way easier to communicate, as Ruth mentioned, because of the way sound travel.
The sound, the wind, and that, yeah.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing. What's your name again? The gentleman after asking the question.
Teal.
It's Tilo.
Tilo.
Yeah.
If you've ridden horses before you lost your sight, you are at an advantage because you have already learned a lot about communicating with the horse. You have that natural thing. It's like it's a sixth sense. It's a subconscious thing that you know how to do it. So here's something really important to remember. You've lost your sight. It's a big deal. It's a big change. And so remember that you are at an advantage. And so you don't need someone leading you around a circle somewhere out there in wherever the barn is or so on. And so if you don't need to be on a tether at all, if you know how to control your horse, and if you set up a little thing where your guide is behind you, so you can hear them, because if a guide is in front of you, the guide is trying to see where he or she is going. Yeah. And so when they give you a verbal command or feedback, when they're looking forward, you lose that sound very quickly. But anyway, I'm digressing. But here's the thing: if you like riding horses, do not let being blind stop you from doing it more. Some of the best golfers in the world are people who used to see, because there's a lot of muscle memory. There's a lot of stuff they've already learned. So ride on, buddy.
I know that from doing martial arts, so I know that you don't need any sight for that.
Yeah.
But I'll tell a little story before I leave. Last time I went riding up at Langley over here in BC, there was a horse I was introduced, and they said most of the time they don't take this horse out because it's too old, but they decided to take the horse out, and I decided I'd take this horse, and I paid a lot of attention to it, and I asked if I can give him carrots and feed him a little before we went out, and I would pet him and that. And then we went out and we were riding him. I kept on talking to him and petting him on the mane and on his neck and that. And then when we finished, I turned around and I'm talking to the instructor and ignoring the horse, and the horse is trying to push my arm to pay attention to him.
Aww.
And then they turned around and says, "This horse never does this to nobody." And I remember this horse. His horse was named Brandy, and she took a liking to me.
You made a bond, Tilo.
Yeah, I did. And I never went back to saw her, so I wonder what happened, or she, thought, was looking for me again. I don't know.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That's nice.
Yeah.
We're gonna take another hand because we've got quite a few friends. So let's go to Lori next.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, first, I applaud you guys for doing this. And when you guys described going down that steep elevator, you couldn't you couldn't caught me going down that for all the tea in China, because this sounded so steep. Did it take a long time to film that part of the documentary, going down that steep of a train?
That was one take. That was one take, Stefan, wasn't it?
Yeah.
One take. Wow.
I can't imagine you're going up and down it too many times.
No.
Yeah.
Everything that happens in the film happens in real time. There were no redos. If we didn't get it the first time, we didn't get it at all. There is one thing though that I should point out about the sort of the technical side of things, and this is something that Ruth will certainly remember, maybe not in the fondest way. There was a fair bit of waiting around for our riders, because in order to film from both perspectives, either where we had the riders coming towards the camera or the riders going away from the camera, we had two camera crews, one which was ahead of the riders and one which was behind. but everybody's moving. And we have to be able to communicate between the different camera crews so that we get, quote unquote, get the shot that we need. Because like I just said, we only do it once. And if we don't get it that one time, we're kind of SOL. So to answer your question, that going down the elevator, which happens at the end of the film, and going down that steep, really chaotic and suicidal slope at the very beginning, that only happened once, and it happened in real time. And the amount of time it took to get down both of those slopes was probably about 20 to 30 minutes for a descent time, maybe an hour. It's hard to tell because time sort of stands still when you're paralyzed with fear.
Yeah, you're white knuckling all the way down.
I couldn't do it. I love horses. I've always, loved horses. I haven't ridden a horse in a long time. I have really bad balance now, so I don't think I'd be comfortable being up on a horse because of the balance issues. But I love horses. I have plastic horses that I've had since I was a kid, and I still have them, to this
That's
day.
cool.
So,
Thanks for sharing, Lori.
Thanks for joining us.
Take my hat off to you guys doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna go to Karim, then Nancy, then Albert, then Richard. And that'll be, I think after Richard, that'll be the close of our questions this evening. So go ahead, Karim.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Ruth and Terry and Stefani. It was a great story. Going
Thank
to
you.
Megan's question of, was this adventure designed for blind people? Like I said, it wasn't, but is it now? So could I contact them to go on this journey now? Because this is something right up my alley.
The short answer is no, it's not designed for blind people, but the longer answer is it can be, as Ruth, Terry, and Carly have proven. And the best place in the world to do this would be with people who have the experience to coordinate such an adventure, and that would be the people where we shot the film. So if you want, maybe Amy and or Donna can send you an email link to Ranquilco, which is where we shot the film, and you can reach out to them and tell them what you would like to do and figure out how to coordinate that. I'm sure they'd be very, very open to it.
That's the information I was looking for, of how to get in touch with them to organize such a trip, because I've been on other high adventure trips throughout the world, including safaris, whitewater rafting, backpacking through the Rockies, etc., etc. So this is something,
this is tailor-made.
That's in my kind of thing to do.
This is tailor-made for you then.
Yeah.
Tailor-made for you, and that's what they do over there at Ranquilco. So that they take people out all the time, and just not necessarily always people who are blind. So do it and gather some people together, and away you go.
Off on an adventure you go.
Yeah, well, Terry and Ruth and Carly could guide you.
Exactly.
Terry, Ruth, would you do it again? Ruth, would you do it again?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Ruth, I'll give you a shout, but it's been about 11 years since I've been on a horse, so.
That doesn't matter. It's okay.
Okay.
Yep.
How about for you, Terry? Would you do it again?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, that bodes well for the adventure. Thanks for your question, Karim. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying okay.
Oh, okay. You know how Zoom is with when we try and chat over each other. Let's welcome Nancy into the space to ask a question or share a comment. Give Nancy a moment to unmute. There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
I guess, can you hear me, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Hi, this is wonderful. Thank you for sharing this. You brought me back memories because I was with my family in Mexico and they wanted to go horseback riding. Well, I'd rather stay at the beach because I'm blind. But they said, no, you'll enjoy it. Well, they told me to wear pants when you go and make sure you have everything with you. Everyone else got into their horse. I got to figure out, I'm blind now. I know how to get on I know how to walk, but I don't know how to get on a horse. So I get on the horse. And we go on this trail, but it was a 9-hour trip, right? So when I I tried to figure out why everyone was faster than I was, and they all knew I was blind, that I had to go slow or whatever. But when I went left, I went left. When I went right, but when we got to the path and there was a cliff, I thought, oh no, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die, because I didn't realize we had to go through this cliff, and I was crying. And one of the girls said, oh my God, I'm not gonna make it. Took me 2.5 hours. Everyone was sitting there having lunch, and I barely made it. They're clapping their hands. You made it, you made it. When I got there, I go, is something wrong with my horse? All he just wanted to do is sleep, eat. And I go, something's wrong with them. I go, what's wrong? He goes, he always wanted to sit beside the curb. He didn't want to go by the edge. He goes, Nancy, your horse is blind. I go, oh my God, I'm blind too. And I go,
oh my gosh.
And I thought, this is scary. And the guy behind me says, go, go. He was like a little turtle. And like this thing was supposed to be 9 hours. My horse took forever. I finally went to him. And I thought this was my best friend. He made me come back safely. But when I got off that horse, oh my God, my bones were hurting. I was like, 9 hours later. But you know what? I would rather do this again, because blind people can get on a horse and and cry with the blind horse. And his name was Tequila. So now my cane is called Tequila too. So
Nancy,
that's great
story.
That's a great story.
But this is in Mexico, and you know what? And I thought, why is everyone faster than I was? My horse was, but you know what? The only thing is that blind horse knew every little step he made. And you know what? That curb, I don't know if he knew I was blind, but you know what? I came back safely. And you know what? The next time I wanted to go horseback riding, the other one didn't want to go, and I said no, because in Canada we don't do this. But I probably embarrassed myself. But you know what? It was adventure.
Good story. Great.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing, bringing back memories.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Megan's got a hand up, so let's go to Megan. I'm hoping it's a new hand and not the original hand, but
yes, I was thinking, like for when you went on the, if I went to the Andes on horseback riding, how I have lots of I have medication, and one of my medication has to be kept cold. How I'll be able to handle with that, because how I'd be able to handle without, because it wouldn't be cold. It'll be really warm, and have to be like cold all the time. And how would I be able to go to the bathroom for the bathroom?
The bathroom. Let's talk about
the bathroom's the easy question to answer.
Well, let's talk about your medicine first. So if you were going to go on that trip over there, these people are, their job is to, they love making things work for their clients. So they'd probably get some dry ice, and they figure out ways of doing things if you were on it, and they check your medical situation and find out if they can make it work. And if there was a way to make it work, they would make it work. Bathroom, listen, the bathroom is no different for you than anybody else. And so,
troweling we will go. A troweling we will go.
Did you bring a shovel?
Oh, you didn't have to pee in the bush, eh?
Go ahead, tell them, Ruth. Tell them how to do it.
Yeah, well, you just take your little digging device, and you go somewhere private.
There's no shower, no bathroom. Let's get this straight here, okay?
Dig a little hole, and get the technique down, and away you go, and cover it up.
Line yourself. It's like a jet bomber getting the trajectory and hitting the hole.
It's funny that you say there's no shower, because y'all looked so clean in the documentary. It's like there's no greasy hair, there's no
river.
Really?
Yeah, because we in Kathmandu, there's no shower.
The river. Oh, okay.
Yeah, the river.
Well,
I came home, and the first shower I had, I was so much dirt on my neck and my face, and oh my God. Anyway.
Well, we had but here's something interesting, you guys. So the food that and Stefan, you probably know way more about this, but the food that we ate on the trail, number one, the meat that we ate and whatever we had was all wild, food, and they were, the goats and the cow, the different animals would be eating grass, all grass fed. Everything is pure. chickens, you know, anything we had, it was all pure. And so even when you did have a bowel movement and so on, your body doesn't stink the same way it might stink the way it does here.
Yeah, you're not
And when
eating processed food. Yeah.
you know, it's totally different. Your body is different, and you, you know, people say sometimes he thinks this doesn't stink. Well, over there it doesn't.
Lovely to be able to have a chuckle in this space, eh?
Yeah.
It is.
And what about cutting up food, like or hearing? Like, do you eat on do you eat with like cutlery on plates or on bowls, or how do you do that? Like, and do you have cutlery, or do you have stuff to cut up food with?
Yeah, everybody was supposed to bring their own eating implements, and I just kind of shared as well, and yeah, it worked out really well.
And I should just tell you, Megan, that in order to get to the trailhead, first you have to fly from Canada to Argentina, which is a day. Then when you arrive in Argentina, you fly to Buenos Aires, and then you have to fly across Argentina from the east coast to the west coast, which is another half day. Then you have to drive for half a day to get to the base camp. Then you have to get on a horse and ride for 3 hours to get to the actual ranch. So you're 2 days away from civilization. Then you ride into the mountains and go camping for 10 days. So you're a long way from showers.
Yeah.
But couldn't you like couldn't you just like fly from Buenos Aires to the west? Like, can you just fly from Argentina to the west coast, or fly, like, say you can fly from Vancouver to the west coast, or like there must be other
there are no direct flights to the west coast. You have to fly through Buenos Aires. It's just how it works.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So it's a whole adventure before you even start your adventure.
It is.
Oh yes, yes.
I love traveling. That's my favorite. You know, I'd love to do that.
Thanks, Megan, for sharing your stories and your questions.
You're welcome.
Let's go to Albert.
Okay. Hey, it's Albert and Brenda. Listen, I love
Albert
this.
and Brenda.
Hi, you guys. Hey, love this story. Had goosebumps up and down my spine watching. I would give just about anything for an experience like this. I'm so happy to see you guys do this. It was absolutely spectacular. I just wish I could have been there. I would love that kind of thing.
Sounds like Karim's going to be organizing a trip, Albert. So,
but Albert, it's Ruth.
Would be the cost of it, and I don't think they'd let me in the plane right now. But anyway, we'll see what happens.
We would have loved to have had you there too.
Yeah, and I thought for sure we'd hear Terry Kelly singing around the campfire.
That's another story, isn't it? He did, but it just wasn't on the film.
Actually, I'll be talking to Stefan about that before too long. I wrote a song. I wrote a song over there. I wrote a song over there, but I won't tell it. It won't make this a long story. But there's a young lady who was taking care of the animals, and one of the crew people. She's probably 18, 19 years old. She'd written a poem, and she asked me. Yeah.
Yes, thank you,
right.
Stefan.
And she asked me to put some music to the poem. So we worked on it together, and we finished the song. And in fact, I didn't realize how many years have gone by. But I'm going to reach out to her soon, and I'm going to record that. And there's some extra footage that maybe hasn't been used that we could. Anyway, we'll talk about Stefan.
A micro project, Terry.
Yeah. So it's anyway. So is this Albert Rule?
Yes.
It is. Yeah.
Oh, for heaven's sakes! I'll send you a copy of it, Albert.
Oh, I'd love it. And listen,
Yeah.
I kept thinking of the power of the dream all the way through this thing. What
Yes.
a event this would be, and way to go, guys! Love the film. Love you guys.
We loved it.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys. Thanks, guys.
And the description was really great too, described by Descriptive Video Works here in Vancouver, because a lot of this, especially documentaries, a lot of it is very visual landscapey stuff. So I really felt like I was in there on the journey with y'all.
It was beautiful. Well done.
Yeah, from the comfort of my own chair and not from not with saddle rash. Richard has a question or a comment.
Hey guys, great film, and it was well worth seeing, and I almost have the feeling that I would want to do something like that. To me, it kind of had that feeling of it could potentially be a really spiritual journey as well too. And I don't know if you guys felt that as well too, because that's what the film sort of how it came across to me is like that it had that same kind of feeling as people that do the walk in Spain or something like that. Like that it'd be something similar like that, but only on horseback.
You got it, Richard. Absolutely.
Richard. Yeah, and I'll tell you, and Steph, I think I have this right, Stefan and Ruth. So at one point when we were riding, one night we stayed right on the Continental Divide, South and Central America. And so when we slept that night, when we put our tents up and went to sleep, you could feel the energy from the earth kind of between the divide. And it was very spiritual. It was quite amazing. So, and one of the lines so the young lady who wrote the poem, we didn't have a chorus. And so when I wrote the chorus with her, we have this one line that goes, "I'm going to lay my body down on the spine of the mountain," and that's right on the Continental Divide. And it was a beautiful, beautiful feeling. The energy was quite amazing.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks, Richard.
You're welcome.
Before I say goodbye to you all, I want to just, Terry, I want to revisit the moment that you shared with us or started to share with us at the top of the event this evening around, I don't know, I'm going to just say almost dying. That wasn't captured. And I wonder if you want to tell that story. And then, of course, Ruth, I'm going to ask you if you have something similar in experience. But tell us about that, because it piqued my interest.
It was one of those things that just kind of happened. So when these horses, when the saddles are, when you put the saddle on, they don't have leather straps. They have it's made of rope. What's the rope?
It's a girth, right?
It's just a girth or a cinch, and it's made of cotton or canvas.
Yeah, so it stretches, and when you put it on, the horses don't want these things to be too tight, and so they're very clever where they'll inhale, hold the stomachs tight. You put the cinch on, you tighten it up, and you think you've got it nice and snug, and then after you get on the horse, then she'll let her stomach go, and it loosens up a bit, so she's more comfortable. So they're very clever that way. So you get to work with them and get to, when they take a breath or something, you get to tighten it up. Anyway, after a couple of hours on your horse, it's with the heat from her body and so on, the cinch will begin to stretch. So we were clipping along nicely. We finally got, I got comfortable enough so we get a sort of a little gallop, and we're cruising along, and all of a sudden I notice my saddle, I'm starting to slide to the right. And just cruising along. It was kind of out in a rocky, grassy spot. So I knew that eventually, if I didn't do something, I was going to be upside down. So I went back to my school days and my wrestling memory, and I rolled off the horse. And I think people thought I'd killed myself or something, but anyway, I rolled off the horse. Everything was just fine. And I just rolled off, and nothing happened. And the other thing is that the other risk was that when you do that kind of thing, you've got horses running by. If something happens, sometimes that can spook a horse, I suppose, and I could have been trampled on or whatever. But it was, it was kind of it was an experience that was quite neat. And the next time, I don't know if you were there when this happened, Stefan, but we're up on this big high ridge, and my horse, unbeknownst to all of us, except for one young lady who was a young gaucho, was pregnant. And the horse wanted me off because she was feeling uncomfortable. And this is one of those situations where off to my right, there was a couple of 1,000-foot or meter drop, and to my left was a big cliff. And so my guide was very attentive, and he noticed that this horse was about to drop and deposit me. So he yelled something out in Spanish, hit the horse on the rump, and stopped her from doing whatever she was going to do. So we had to put her on vacation to get another horse. So that could have been an interesting thing as well. But
Ruth, any
Stefan,
moments for you?
did you see that, Stefan?
Sorry. Yes, I remember like it was yesterday, Terry. And I have to say that even though Ruth and Terry had very little riding experience, the two of them are very quick studies. And while it's absolutely true that Terry found himself on the back of a somewhat pregnant mare who decided she had had enough of him, at least for that very moment, he was so deep in the saddle, he being Terry was so deep in the saddle, and those of you who have horse experience know what that means. He had his butt glued to the saddle. And while the horse gently, but perhaps in Terry's perception, radically descended to offload Terry, he just kind of slowly pivoted to the left and gently descended. And it was a pretty soft landing, all things considered, given that it was 1,000 feet, down on the other side. So, well done,
Yeah.
Terry.
Thank you. We're here to tell the tale.
Terrified just listening to it. Ruth, have you got any stories of being on the edge?
Well, I guess the day I went into tachycardia, Stefan, you can give the visual to this as well, but we were being filmed, and it was before we were actually on the trail. It was some filming that was happening sort of pre-trail ride. And we were going through a narrow passageway of sorts through some kind of fence, a gate or something like that. And my guide misunderstood the direction that was being given by you or somebody. And it was pretty tense there for a moment. That could have been a very difficult. And of course, I'm not being able to see, but I'm sensing, and I remember you sort of
yelling,
exclaiming. Yes. You remember.
Yes, I do. It does, whether you're sighted or not, there are definitely all kinds of perils involved in riding horses, whether you're on a flat surface or climbing down a mountain. But the truth is that the horses don't want to die either.
Right.
Good point. Yeah.
And they're clever beings, and their survival instinct is good enough that they will, and they're sure-footed. And this is a particular breed of horses that's native to Argentina, that knows these mountains and that understands how to navigate the trails. And so, while there's all kinds of planning that went into the organizing of the film crew and finding the creature comforts, or at least as comfortable as we could make it, safety was always a primary concern. And it was, TA and I had countless conversations about how to do this as safely as possible. And we knew that the horses that were chosen specifically for this trip were the best of the best of the best, and the smartest and most sure-footed. So we joke around about Terry being offloaded by a pregnant mare, or maybe Ruth taking a left when she should have gone right, and me getting upset about it and anxious. Fact is, the horses knew better than anybody what the smartest thing to do was. So we were always in good hands.
Nice sidestep.
Yeah, that's great. Good to know. Friends, this has been absolutely fantastic being with y'all in this space and listening to you tell your stories. But before we officially say goodnight, we have a prize draw to get to. So Ruth, I know you're volunteering to do this prize draw this evening. So I'm going to bring Donna in from our VocalEye team and leave the two of you in each other's hands to run this prize draw. Donna, take it away.
All right, Ruth, I have the names in the bag. I am shuffling them, and whatever word you came up with, you had about an hour and a half.
Blind gaucho.
Nice. And
it is Peg Mercer.
Oh, yay, Peg! Peg won a raffle prize. Awesome. Congratulations, Peg.
Oh, hello. Just a sec. Am I muted? Am I unmuted?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh,
We can hear you.
my goodness. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll make sure we connect with you by email, Peg, to get you your raffle prize.
Oh, thank you. Well, that's wonderful. And it's just been a really wonderful evening. And yeah.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Wonderful.
And if you like, I like to throw a Christmas album into the mix, and we can either have it downloaded from iTunes or I can send you a hard copy. So if you want to draw for that, ladies.
All right. We're gonna draw for Terry's generously offered Christmas prize. Unless you want to save that to closer to the holidays, and we can do that on another night. Terry, what's your flavor?
It's up to you. Well, you know, by the time we get it to you, it's at the end of November now. By the time we get the logistics, if they want a hard copy, we'll have to get that to them. So it can be a download or a hard copy.
Okay. All right, Donna. Let's get Terry to pull this prize name then. So Terry,
all right, Terry.
Where's the hat?
The hat is a bag.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready, Terry, shout out something to cue us to stop.
I see what you're doing. Okay. Producer, director, Stefan.
What did I do?
All right. It's Lilo.
Lilo, wonderful. Awesome. Oh, that's lovely that Lilo's won this prize. And what we'll do is we'll connect with Lilo and we'll figure out whether she would like a hard copy or a downloadable version. And then we'll figure out how to get that to you. Does that sound like a good plan, everybody?
Thank you, guys. That's awesome. What a
Great.
surprise.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Terry, for offering the prize in the space.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's wonderful. We do a prize draw every night. So anytime you want to offer a prize. There you go.
So Amy, what is the prize?
Peg, the prizes are locational based. So we will send you, we'll communicate with you offline about that.
Okay,
So,
sounds lovely.
yeah. So that we make sure that folks get something that's close to their area.
Yeah.
Wouldn't help us if we said it's a Tim Hortons gift card and you live in Colorado.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. So we've decided not to necessarily preset all of our prizes. So there you go. All right, friends. It's that time of night.
Hear you, Terry and Ruth.
You're welcome, Peg. It's nice to have you on the call.
Yeah, it's great to hear you, Peg.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you so much, everybody. That was awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Thanks so
I'd
much.
love to try it. Is it on Netflix too? The show?
If only we were on Netflix, we'd all be in limousines right now, but no, it's not.
Patty, you want to say something? You want to say something?
One-time viewing. Friends, let me officially thank our guests for joining us in the space. So thank you to Ruth and to Terry and to Stefan for joining us this evening. That'll bring this event to a close. So we're going to stop the recording.
VocalEye, vocaleye.ca. Special thanks to our funders, the Canada Council for the Arts, the British Columbia Arts Council, the Province of British Columbia, and the City of Vancouver.